Beth in Virginia Beach. It says, it seems like gluten-free is a big buzzword right now. A lot of my friends eat gluten-free, and the other day my girlfriend told me I should consider eating this way because of my thyroid issues. Can you explain how gluten affects your thyroid? So what do you think?
Here's the thing. Gluten is something that causes your immune system to, well, I'll say this first of all, everybody's different, so not everybody has a gluten problem.
Right.
So when people say gluten affects the thyroid, it only does for some people.
Right.
So that's the first thing. But what if you do have a gluten sensitivity, then every time you eat this, it's causing your immune system to be overworked, and then that can start to wreak havoc and cause autoimmune thyroid conditions like Hashimoto's, and so yeah, it can be a big factor for a lot of people. So it's worth giving it a try. And a lot of people have a sensitivity to gluten, so they may have more subtle effects that they don't realize are causing their problem.
Yeah. And for me, I will say this, it's not just gluten, it's all grains for me.
Exactly.
So I don't cut it out completely, but I limit my grains. And that's why, like I said, for me, in order for me to completely be off thyroid medicine, I have to be anywhere between 80 to 90% of my diet has to be grain-free and paleo in order for me to stay off. Now, what happens for me is, so like, let's say I do, if I try to do 100% paleo, which for me, it's just, I can't do it.
Right.
I wish I could do it. I know I'd feel like $1 million if I did it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to stay 100% paleo. And I don't recommend being 100% paleo to anyone or 90% unless you have these type of autoimmune or Hashimoto's or whatever. I 100% have Hashimoto's, and I know for me, I feel so much better. The less grains I have, I can just tell my energy's up, my thyroid's functioning, and so forth.
Well, I'll tell you, hit some key points. Number one, it has to be grain-free. Mm-hmm. So this is a big mistake. A lot of people say they go gluten-free, and they eat a lot of gluten-free products. And a lot of those gluten-free products have rice and corn. Rice is very low. It still has we have proteins called gliadins, and these are what make up glutens. So almost all grains, including rice, has this. So when you're eating gluten-free products, you're getting these other grains. So really being grain-free is what I tell my patients. Grain-free, including rice. Now, if you're going to cheat, rice is probably a better place to cheat, but for gluten, like heavy gluten, like wheat, barley, and rye, that will mess you up. You have to be 100%. Mm-hmm. If you've got Hashimoto's and you're gluten sensitive, then you've got to be off that 100%. Yeah. Now, if you're going to cheat, maybe a little bit of corn, maybe a little rice, but for some of my patients, even the rice won't do it. Yes. And then as far as 100% paleo, so there's a difference between being paleo and looking at autoimmune diet. Mm-hmm. So there's certain foods that affect our immune system. So you could be paleo, but still be eating, like, say, nightshades. Right. Which are like tomatoes, peppers, white potatoes, eggplants. And if that's a stimulant to you, then you're being paleo and you're not getting the results you want. Yes. And it depends on the person too. So genetically, and then even just your activity level. So if you're like a marathon runner, you probably need a little more carbs in your diet. Right. And so, but you don't have to eat grains to get those carbs, but you can be not quite as strict on the low carb diet and do much better, actually. Yes, exactly.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast preview. Now don't go anywhere. This was just a little taste of last week's show. You can check out the full episode with so many more of your intermittent fasting questions by clicking the link down there in the show notes. Also remember, if you enjoy the podcast, it would mean the world to us for you to leave a review on iTunes to get this podcast out to other people that may have the same questions that you do. And as always, if you have a question that you want answered, email those to questions@chantelrayway.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.